Hare Krishna. Thank you for coming despite the rain. I had asked on the phone how many have cooked prasadam. They said 3 Matajis. I said at least those 3 families will surely come. So I will come. But there are many actually who have come. So we recently celebrated the 50th birthday of ISKCON. And on that occasion, I would like to briefly discuss today of the topic on some ISKCON Leela and Prabhupada Leela. Recently I was doing some research while I study Prabhupada's Leela Amrut or other biographies written by devotees such as Bhurijan Prabhu, Tamal Krishna Maharaj, Shrutakirti Prabhu, and so on. While reading, I started making categorization of various pastimes of Prabhupada with a view to try and understand how Prabhupada dealt with his personal self, what were his habits, lifestyle, and routines that he maintained. Then how did Prabhupada deal with his students? How did Prabhupada deal with big shots? How did Prabhupada deal with non-devotees in general? Prabhupada's dealings, basically. Etiquettes, mannerisms. And then I started making another thing on categorizing pastimes under the heading of Prabhupada's role as a teacher, counselor, manager, one who was very productive in service of Krishna, whose every moment was embellished, imbued with a desire, intense desire to serve humanity, all living beings. And how did he conduct himself in producing results, basically, for Krishna. And it was such a wonderful experience. So I would like to share some of the pastimes of Prabhupada that shed light on these aspects. That will also become our nectar of instruction. Sometimes what we hear in the book may sound very theoretical. But when we see the life of an Acharya based on these principles, Prabhupada was a living and breathing Bhagavatam. So the books become alive suddenly. We start appreciating what does it mean Vacho Vegam Manasa Krodha Vegam. What do we mean Utsahat Nishchayat Dhairyat? No. What do we mean that Kintu Adara Danudinam Khalu Saiva Jushta? So I would like to begin by narrating about Prabhupada's personal habits and activities, beginning with eating habits. Prabhupada liked to eat fairly simply. His standard fare for breakfast was cut fruits, fresh fried cashew nuts, in India sometimes puffed rice, and one small sandesh. That's breakfast. It was light. For lunch, he would have the standard rice, dal, chapatis, and one wet sabji, one dry sabji, maybe a small sweet. If the cook was good, he or she could add to that, but those things had to be there. Prabhupada liked the chapatis to be fresh off the stove. So I think it was Shrutakirti Prabhu. No, Harishauri Prabhu. In Vrindavan, Yamuna Mataji, when she was personally present, cooking for Prabhupada in the Damodara temple, Radha Damodara temple. So one day Prabhupada invited him and he said, why don't you have prasadam with me? And he was feeling very awkward. How can I sit with my guru? And Prabhupada insisted that he should sit and eat. So when he ate the prasadam, because he was also personal servant of Prabhupada and he also used to cook for him sometimes, often, daily. So after tasting the prasadam of Yamuna Mataji, he said, I understood the depth of disservice I was doing for Prabhupada in the name of being a cook for him. What kind of prasad this Mataji would make? Everything was cooked to perfection. The shape, the size, the color, the taste, all the 5 senses. would be enlivened simply by coming in contact, and nothing would be lying here and there, including even the amount of salt that is put on the plate. Everything was just perfect. So Prabhupada and he both had prasad, at the end of which he was feeling very, so to say, embarrassed. And he said, Prabhupada, what have I been feeding you all along? I don't know what have I done to you. Prabhupada said, now she cooked for you, now tomorrow you should cook for her. That is reciprocation. So Prabhupada actually taught Yamuna Mataji how to cook. As we know the pastime, that when she came, Mukunda and Janaki, they had their marriage ceremony about to happen. So Janaki's sister was Yamuna. Jane and Joan, the two sisters. So when the marriage was to happen, Prabhupada said, send messages for inviting all the family members and relatives. So they sent, and of all the people from both sides, only one sister of one, the bride came, that's all. And Prabhupada said, that's it. In India, marriage is a big affair. At least 1,000 people come, What is this? One person comes here for marriage. It was a culture shock for Prabhupada. Prabhupada said, never mind. So he's the father for both of them. And then Prabhupada, he said, all the preparations for, sari and the decorations and the yajna and the dress, whatever. And Prabhupada then finally went into the kitchen and told Yamuna Mataji, she should come and help him in the kitchen. So she every now and then had a habit of, sometimes you sweat, so you, kind of mop it off. Prabhupada said, wash hands. And anything in between she would touch here or there, Prabhupada said, wash hands. So that was the first lesson she learned, that extreme level of cleanliness while cooking. And if anything would fall off, on the floor of the kitchen platform, immediate cleanup, So all throughout that process, it was so hectic, first of all. And Prabhupada cooked something around 21 items. Can you imagine? Marriage mein bhi aajkal koi nahi banata aisa. And the hippies would really eat, because it was the only place they would really get to eat nicely. So Prabhupada, with her help, he cooked. In between she asked, Swamiji, can I have a smoke? In between, Prabhupada had a culture shock. What is this question? Because she was, and Prabhupada said, not now. After completing everything, you can do whatever you want. So from this kind of conditions, eventually this same Yamuna Mataji went on to become a very great cook. In fact, she wrote one book called Krishna's Cuisine. And that book was #1 international bestseller for 10 months in a row. It is a big accomplishment for any book, and for that matter, a cookbook, to be in that category. And that was all because what Prabhupada taught her in cooking. Once Palika cooked in Calcutta, and I was about 10 minutes late, bringing Prabhupada his prasadam. He got angry about it and chastised her strongly. I had never seen him chastise, especially his women disciples, like that, so strongly. He explained, when the appetite comes, it must be fed. Otherwise, disease comes. One time, Prabhupada gave me a favorable instruction. This is Shuddha Kirti Prabhu telling. Prabhupada said, you should eat what you can digest. If you eat what you like, it is good for you. Favorable instruction. Now this is about food. Now what about his bathing or any other activity? So Prabhupada had a habit that every day he would put out a pital ka bucket full of water into the hot sun in the morning, and that water will become water lukewarm or something, and that water Prabhupada would use for bathing in the noon. So Prabhupada said, once we were walking in the morning program, and Prabhupada suddenly turned around and said to his secretary, we must have a bath. Ganga is flowing nearby. The secretary said, Prabhupada, we don't have any gamchas or towels. We just came for a walk. Prabhupada looked around. There are no women here. We can go in our kopins and then wear a top piece. So Prabhupada removed all his clothes. All the brahmacharis and sannyasis with Prabhupada, went into Ganges. And Prabhupada, with those typical blocking of 2 fingers on the mouth, 2 on the nose, 2 each on the eyes, and thumb on the ear. Prabhupada went inside the Ganga, 1, 2, 3, took 3 quick dips, came out. And life was in a fast lane, he says. He took the 3 dips and came out. It was an ecstatic, spontaneous bath with Prabhupada. This goes to show that Prabhupada is quite spontaneous. Although he was a, so to say, disciplinarian, as Prabhupada would sometimes be described by devotees. But he was actually very spontaneous in his demeanor. Now talking about how he dealt with devotees. Or what were his mannerisms and dealings. It was Srila Prabhupada's qualities of warmth and kindness that touched me the most. From being with Prabhupada, you could immediately understand that he had a genuine concern for your welfare. He was serving us. He was putting himself out in so many ways just to give us the opportunity for spiritual life. It made you want to reciprocate by offering whatever service you could to Srila Prabhupada. There was nice reciprocation going on. I always felt very comfortable in Prabhupada's presence. Of course, there was a former guru-disciple relationship, and one had to be careful not to transgress that. But at the same time, Prabhupada was very accommodating. He was wonderfully warm and humble. He always made you feel wanted. He always made you feel significant in some way. He knew what you were doing, and he was happy with it. He would encourage. He would also sometimes chastise. But that chastisement had the same effect as his praise. It made you Krishna conscious. You could understand that it was for your own benefit. And chastisement or praise was never materially motivated. Srila Prabhupada was very happy to be with us. He appreciated the fact that young men had given up the best part of their lives for spreading Krishna consciousness. And he always showed that appreciation. As soon as Prabhupada entered anywhere, like an auditorium, anybody could see that this person was very different. His gravity, his power, his demeanor. He came in practically like a military commander. Not in the sense of a violent person, but in the sense of his authority. I could see that here was a person who was filled with authority and yet serene at the same time. So, when Prabhupada entered into the Avalon ballroom in the original days, the hippies who were present there were all stoned in drugs. Nobody had any consciousness, even to welcome a pure devotee. Allen Ginsberg was told by Prabhupada that he should speak something to this audience in the beginning. So Allen Ginsberg took over and introduced the Hare Krishna Mahamantra and the Swami. And after that, Prabhupada started chanting. 1 hour non-stop kirtan Prabhupada did. He was so old. And you could see his nerves on the temples and the neck, tight. You could visibly see them, and he would sing with great intensity. He went on singing. Within a short period of time, every single person sitting there in the audience who earlier had no consciousness whatsoever was singing and dancing in ecstasy with the tune of that Hare Krishna Mahamantra. I looked at Prabhupada. Prabhupada had got off and he was also dancing and jumping in ecstasy. At one point of time, I felt Swamiji should not exert himself so much. And I was trying to stop him. And then finally it ended. When Prabhupada came out from the Avalon ballroom, he looked at all of us boys and said, "This is not a place for a brahmachari." To see this holy person, so filled with authority, more than 70 years old, dancing in ecstasy like a small boy, was overwhelming. So one hand gravity, power, authority. Another hand there is innocence and exuberance. One time my parents came to New Vrindavan. I showed them around. After they went back, I went to Prabhupada. First question Prabhupada asks, did they get prasadam? I said, oh, well, I was told that there wasn't any. Prabhupada said, it was almost like, what is the use? If they didn't get prasadam, then your service was basically a failure. Prabhupada emphasized prasadam. It was a practical way for a person to experience Krishna in his life and make spiritual advancement. Practical. Badrinarayan Prabhu is narrating. We were walking by a big house in Leccho Park in Chicago. One enormous dog came running towards us. 3 or 4 devotees hid behind the cars. A couple of 2 devotees hid behind Brahmananda and some behind Prabhupada. Everyone was overwhelmed with bodily concept of life and thought of only self-preservation. Prabhupada was left out to confront his appointment. Everyone else was stunned and didn't know what to do. With transcendental bravery, Srila Prabhupada stepped forward, threw his chaddar over his shoulder. It was as if Krishna was tightening his belt when he fights with the demons. Prabhupada took his cane and went, "Hut!" And the dog growled, turned around and ran back. The devotees dusted themselves off, regrouped. Everyone was embarrassed. A little further down the road, another dog came, growling and running full speed. Some sannyasi tried. Hut! The dog became madder. Wow! He jumped on him. And the sannyasi had to run away. Prabhupada laughed. He said, it requires potency. You have to know the science. Govinda Dasi. We were sitting in the garden of New Jersey one day, and I saw a slug crawling right next to Prabhupada. You know, slug is a goggle guy without a shell. It crawls little. It goes like 5 centimeters in 2 hours. You know, that kind of speed it has got. So slug is a very ugly thing. And I said, ooh, look. I was a kid, 17-year-old. Prabhupada was sitting there in the garden chanting japa. And Prabhupada looked. Prabhupada got a tremendous compassionate glance over that creature. Chant to the poor creature. I went and brought my bead bag, sat down next to the slug and chanted. I still chant to the slugs and insects whenever I see them. Because I remember Prabhupada telling me to chant. And I take it as one of the instructions that Prabhupada gave me. We have this human form of life. We can chant. They can't. But the soul can hear. The tree can hear. The bird can hear. And Prabhupada would sit outdoors and do these things. So this is about Prabhupada's dealings and mannerisms. Now Prabhupada as a teacher. Govinda Dasi. In New York, before Srila Prabhupada fell ill, Prabhupada gathered few of us artists together and started a studio for painting the pastimes of Srimad Bhagavatam so that they can be published as pictures in the books. He had us drawing the story of Prahlad Maharaj and Hiranyakashipu in the 7th canto. He was keen of having this story as a slideshow for children, which we eventually did. Prabhupada told us about the poses and even demonstrated them. He posed as Hiranyakashipu, standing on one leg, hands raised upward toward the sky, so that we could paint. Prabhupada loved to pose as Lord Narasimhadev. At least once in a day, he would suddenly come in the studio and do a roar and go away. And when he would do that, his eyes would get big, whatever, and you could almost see the white above, and this was his delight. He enjoyed it very much. Once Jadurani had him pose like Krishna. So he wrapped up in white dhoti so that we could see how the pleats fall. Prabhupada exactly made the pleats fall the way they should. And he also stood in threefold bending posture. He was right there watching us, seeing what and how we were doing things. Govinda Dasi. I would open Prabhupada's mail and read it to him. Once Harsharani sent Prabhupada a poem that she had written. I thought it was a bizarre poem. She had written, I offer my humble obeisances to my spiritual master, who is continuously running here and there, playing hide and seek, leapfrog with Krishna and the cowherd boys. And she described many transcendental pastimes. And I was afraid to even present them before Prabhupada. Finally I did. Prabhupada said, she has become advanced. Publish this poem in Back to Godhead. And it was printed. Prabhupada with big shots. There was a professor from Caltech. Caltech means California Tech University. Caltech, who had studied Vedanta. And he appreciated when he saw Prabhupada gave his simplistic explanations according to him. Appropriate for the neophytes in the West. Because he thought, I know Vedanta. And Bhakti Vedanta Swami is teaching, to the neophytes in the West, the basics of this Vedanta. And his explanations are simplistic. Nice gentleman. That kind of feeling he had about the work that we were doing. This professor thought that as one went further into Vedanta, one understood how the form becomes formless. He quoted Sanskrit shlokas to support his viewpoint. As he was speaking in the temple hall, Prabhupada did not even look at him. Hand in bead bag, Prabhupada was continuously looking towards the deities and chanting, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Ram, 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 Hare. This man is going on speaking as if he has got a comment to give. While the professor went on speaking and Prabhupada went on chanting, looking at the deities, finally the professor ran out of steam. Which means he got exhausted. Prabhupada said, are you finished? And then Prabhupada started quoting from Puranas, Vedas, Vedanta Sutra, Upanishads, Samhitas, as if he were hammering a nail into the ground. For this man, it was like body blows. Everyone was sitting on a big rug and this man was standing. As Prabhupada spoke in his lion-like way, with the hand in the bead bag, the professor stooped a little bit, then he was on his knees, and then he could have melted into the floor eventually. Prabhupada, with his noble bearing, made point after point, and finally it came to the crescendo, and Prabhupada finished. He asked, "Do you have any further questions?" The professor said, "Swami, can we have kirtan?" His complaint had been that we just chanted and sang and danced like sentimentalists and we did not have sufficient philosophy. Now when he said, "Can we have kirtans?" all devotees said, "Jai!" Which means this man is conquered now completely. The professor had finally seen the light, so to speak. Indira Gandhi. Prabhupada didn't consult with astrologers much. And he didn't want to have an important meeting on Thursday afternoon. That was the only astrological thing that he followed, which we remember. He said, Thursday noon is not auspicious time. So, when the Indira Gandhi's appointment thing came up, either in the morning or in the evening, but not in the afternoon, Prabhupada said. That was a Thursday that they were giving appointment. So they changed the time and we all went together. But the devotees with Prabhupada only could go as much to the door and then they were stopped. When while entering into her room, only Prabhupada was allowed to enter. Indira Gandhi came and met with Srila Prabhupada. And Prabhupada later on told us that she was very respectful to him. She actually asked him, "How do you know that your followers are not CIA agents?" He explained, CIA, American Intelligence Agency. He explained, "I went to the West and preached. These people have sacrificed everything. They gave up their bad habits. They are getting up at 4 in the morning, attending Mangal Aarti. If they were CIA, they would live in 5-star hotels and have a whole different lifestyle. Now they are vegetarians, giving up all the bad habits. Do you think they can maintain this for long?" She was convinced. "All right, I will give your devotees long-term visas." After that meeting, she passed some order and devotees started getting long-term visas regularly. So, I think we can go on, but we'll pause there. So these were some, so to say, insights into the life of an Acharya, by which we get to know what should be our noble bearing in life. How should we conduct our affairs? Eating habits, dealings, even insects and human beings and big shots and whatever. So, on the occasion of this 50th anniversary, I would like to quickly revise us into the 7 purposes of ISKCON and ask each one of us a question as to which of these purposes have we made our life and soul. So, just give me 1 minute, I'll read them out. Okay, my plan to assist Srila Prabhupada in fulfilling the 7 purposes of the International Society for Krishna Consciousness. Should we go ahead? Think about in your personal life, how would you try to fulfill each or some of these purposes, activities that you will adopt. Please read first.
To systematically propagate spiritual knowledge to society at large and educate all peoples in the techniques of spiritual life in order to check the imbalance of values in life and achieve real unity and peace in the world.
So what is the main thrust of this First purpose, systematic training and education in knowledge, skills, and values of spiritual culture. So, are we systematic in our studies and hearing that we do? Are we systematic in the way we preserve either the notes or whatever we prepare as our lesson plans? Are we systematic in thinking about the needs of people that we meet and how to devise interesting ways for giving them Krishna consciousness? And are we systematic when we actually deliver our plan to them? So being systematic, methodical is important. Preaching is the essence. So last time I gave an idea. Each of you Grihasthas here should have one weekly program that you conduct in your home. And that program can be of only 40-minute duration. First 20 minutes there is Kirtan. Then 10 minutes there is some shloka recitation and mantras, some chanting. People like Brahma Samhita or Bhagavad Gita, some one chapter shlokas. So recite shloka, read the meaning, go ahead every time. And another 10 minutes for prasadam. That's it. No preaching, no talking. Contact with spiritual sound and prasadam. Every one of us can do this weekly and call our friends and neighborhood and make them just do this much. And there are many people who are happy about it when you don't preach to them. And give whatever prasad you give, very quality. Don't give like full prasad, but you may make some butter halwa with pineapple, flavor and like that. So one item but dhasu. And you give them and people just fully appreciate. Possible? It's a simple program to do. Every one of you should do it. And later on when they get prasadam after 5-6 months, they start asking questions. You will suddenly see athato brahma jidnyasa in them. Till then, prasad has to go and purify some things first, and then people open up. They say, what is this Krishna consciousness? So then we can teach them. Okay, read next, second.
To propagate a consciousness of Krishna as it is revealed in Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam.
So training and education should eventually lead to a certain type of ethos, consciousness that we create. And the basis of that should be Bhagavad Gita and Bhagavatam. So there are many Vedic literatures, but our thrust is these two. There may be many organizations and many opinions of people ki this is good, that is good. No, Upanishads are good, and that's fine. We don't disrespect. But our main thrust is these two books. We always speak from them, always have them around, and we also give it out to people. So we propagate the consciousness of Krishna through these. So I hope by now you have studied Bhagavad Gita by coming to these classes fully well. Once through you have gone. That's a great accomplishment. मरते समय कुछ तो किया, like you have done something. I was recently reading the top 5 regrets of a dying man. All dying people, what are their top 5 regrets? So one of them is, I could have been a little more productive. I could have done something more in my life. Another typical one is, I could have been a little more happier and not taken so much things to the heart and make myself and others miserable. I could have been a little happier. So these are some kind of regrets that people have. I guess for devotees that could be, I could have read Srimad Bhagavatam once through. पूरा एक बार भागवतम पढ़ लेता था तो अच्छा रहता था. So please, Bhagavad Gita and Bhagavatam. How many of you have not yet got Bhagavatam at home? Got. CC, Chaitanya Charitamrita. Okay. So please uncover them. keep one book just next to your, maybe even the bed. Every night before sleeping, 10 minutes. Just before sleeping, 10 minutes. Not big deal. और 10 मिनट पढ़े बिना सोने का नहीं. So, please read third one. Manojyoti Prabhu.
To bring the members of the society together with each other and nearer to Krishna, the prime entity, and thus develop the idea within the members and humanity at large that each soul is part and parcel of the quality of Godhead, Krishna.
Which means we have to create two things: unity in diversity by being Krishna-centered communities, and secondly, we must understand and appreciate Achintya Bheda Bheda in all walks of life. So to bring members closer to each other and nearer to Krishna. Team building and empowerment. So our speech and actions should be such that we don't break the unity between devotees and we don't disempower them. No matter how much terrible or anartha ridden their consciousness and behavior be. It's our purpose. So bring the members closer together and nearer to Krishna. Which means we are not just trying to make a social group which is family oriented, with each other, but also our purpose is to get them closer to Krishna. Not just socializing. And the next item, the idea that each soul is a part and parcel of the quality of Godhead. That is Achintya Bheda Bheda. We are not God, we are godly. We have same qualities like that of God. Please read fourth.
To teach and encourage Sankirtana movement, congregational chanting of the holy name of God as revealed in the teachings of Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu.
Sankirtan. So each of us should know at least 5 Hare Krishna tunes. We should be also preferably knowing how to set them to the tune of the kartal, if not mridanga. 1, 2, 3. And wherever we go, we are able to lead a kirtan properly. Even if it is just kartal and voice, no problem. But we should be kirtan leaders. We should know how this much at least to be done. So 5 Hare Krishna tunes and 10 Vaishnava songs. Samsaradavanam, Narsimha, Tulsi Puja, all that included, and few typical ones, Jiyanilo Premadhana or Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Daya Kurumore or Damodarashtakam. Few things we should know by heart, not that we need a book for that. So 5 Hare Krishna tunes, I'm giving homework. 5 Hare Krishna tunes and 10 Vaishnava songs to be by hearted. हमारा प्रॉब्लम क्या है, हरे कृष्णा ट्यून बाकी टाइम बाथरूम में आ जाता है गाने को, बट एज सून एज यू सिट ऑन आसन व्हेन समबडी आस्क्स प्रभु जी सिंग, एक भी ट्यून याद नहीं आता है, एंड वी स्टार्ट समथिंग सिंगिंग एंड समथिंग एल्स ओनली हैपेंस आफ्टर दैट. So we have to be a little prepared. There are devotees who record tunes in their mobiles, and just before they are asked to sing, they go in some corner and hear it. ये वाला ट्यून गाना है अभी. Allowed, no problem. Do the needful. So teach and encourage Sankirtan movement. And we should also teach people chanting. So you can have a preacher's kit that you carry around, which basically has like 2 japamalas, 2 small books of Prabhupada, and some prasadam. And that's always there in your bag. And wherever you go, teach and encourage Sankirtan. As soon as you see a candidate, willing or unwilling, whatever, We give it a try. First give him prasadam, see the reaction, nice. Give a book, give a mala. Chant Hare Krishna. Process is very simple. Okay? Makes sense? Fifth,
Erect for the members and for society at large, a holy place of transcendental pastime dedicated to the personality.
Hare Krishna. So to erect what? Places that are dedicated to pastimes of Krishna. Now this means temple and in home, your own home. You have to make it a place that is dedicated to pastimes of Krishna. What else? Our farm communities, our schools. You are saying something?
Teaching centers.
Preaching centers, small centers. Hospitals. So these are past places dedicated to pastimes of Krishna that we have to erect. Fine. Read next. Someone.
To bring the members closer together for the purpose of teaching a simpler and more natural way of life.
So this is about farm communities, Varnashram, simpler and natural way of life. So this includes not using leather, plastic, as much as possible avoiding all the cosmetics, the modern chemical based stuff, and whatever. We can go on adding to that and trying to use as natural and simpler things as possible. So we had learnt about that joy of less. Trash, treasure, transfer and temporarily undecided. There are 4 piles to be created in our homes every now and then, periodically. So trash goes out, treasure keep for yourself, transfer, give it off to others. Temporarily undecided, put it out of sight. And nothing gets used for 2 months, that becomes transfer pile. So that's how we become simpler. Last one, someone? Now WhatsApp and whatever, your Google Plus and Facebook, everything else included. E-books especially. So not only we should distribute, we should also publish. What does that mean?
Some of us will become or is encouraged to become writers.
Prabhupada is encouraging us to become writers. Prabhupada wants us to write. I may say, Prabhu, I am not a writer or anything like that. Prabhupada says, publish. And that's why Prabhupada started Back to Godhead magazine, because he wanted to make sure that devotees write their realizations. It's a very important part of our movement. So publish and distribute. Periodicals, magazines, books and other writings. Okay. So these are our purposes, why we are here together. And we have Prabhupada himself having done all the 7 things thoroughly well. Can we just once again go through that? First purpose, what all Prabhupada did? He started his Bhakti Shastri, Bhakti Vaibhava system. It was systematic. It was not just something haphazard. And then Bhagavad Gita and Bhagavatam. Achintya Bheda Bhed. And then we have places erected, beautiful places in ISKCON. And Prabhupada himself led a very simpler and natural life despite becoming a, so to say, CEO of a MNC, multinational corporation. ISKCON Incorporation, that's our name actually. And then he wrote and published like anything. Unbelievable quantity. So just take a moment to kindly think about your personal life. What could you do to fulfill any of these purposes? And also take a moment to pray to Srila Prabhupada to give you the needed empowerment to do so.